I'd like to welcome Kiersten Reszkowski on for our interview series. At the time of recording, we don't know what episode this is going to be, but hopefully you guys are enjoying the series so far. Kiersten, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah,
Kiersten is a two-time NJAC first team, uh, played at Stony Brook before transferring to Stockton. So how you doing, Kiersten?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I mean, I think what you're doing here is really cool, and yeah, I'm glad to be on it.
So you were a four-time letter winner at Freehold Township, and then started at Stony Brook before moving to Stockton. What was one of the reasons for the transfer from Stony Brook to Stockton?
So, the gist of it is that it was just everything soccer, academics, and like my social life. Like, it was just super overwhelming trying to incorporate all those aspects into my life. Soccer was just, it was stressful in that I was struggling to try and get a position and just always putting forth like my best effort in practice and meetings and everything. And then academically, it was so hard. I struggled and like I kind of saw, I had about six roommates, and I kind of saw that like they weren't struggling as much as me. And it was so hard because we were all in the same classes, basically, health science majors for the most part. And it was just, I was struggling more than them. And they were like going out partying, and I had to stay home and study because I didn't want to fail my classes. Um, so that, and then soccer wise, it didn't really end up well my freshman year. I was redshirted, and it was expensive, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And so I decided to transfer pretty late in the process during the spring, I think in like May. um, and I think I applied to TCNJ and then didn't get in because they only accept like per program, and I tried to get into nursing, and it was just they were like, you need a 4.0 GPA, and I just didn't have that at Stony Brook. And so Stockton was really my only option, as bad as it sounds. I was kind of like, well, this is the only school that's still taking applications, so I guess I'm going here. And I wasn't going to play soccer at first. I was like, I'm done with this. Like, it really took a toll on me mentally at the Division 1 level, and I was just like, it's not fun anymore. I don't really want to do this, and I don't really know why. I kind of reached out to the coach, and he was just like, he didn't really ask me any questions. He was like, oh, you're a transfer, like a Division 1 transfer, like you're on the team. And I was like, oh, okay, like you don't want to see like a video or anything? And he was like, no, like you're good. I was like, okay. And I knew someone on the team at the time, and I just kind of went from there. And I've loved every minute at Stockton. So
What was one of the biggest difference between D1 and D3? Like, was there a culture shock? Like when people moved from like New Jersey to Wisconsin, like I did, I felt like there was a slight culture shock. Was there something like that on the sports side at all?
um, I wouldn't, I don't know if it really had to do with sports, but at Stony Brook, just a completely different atmosphere. Like, I'm still friends with everyone from there, but um, they're from Sweden, Oregon, Canada, like the western side of Canada, um, Long Island, like basically everyone. Someone's from Finland. Like, it was so different, kind of hanging out with them, and then coming to Stockton, and it's like everyone's from Jersey. So it was just different atmospheres, like not necessarily in a bad way, but um, I kind of just like learned a lot from my friends at Stony Brook, and it was interesting. Like, I love them. They're amazing people, and I actually got really emotional. I went to visit them this past week, and it's just so weird because I was like, this might be like the last time I'm gonna see you guys. So it sucks in that aspect that they're so far away, but I'm glad that I don't regret going to Stony Brook because of the people I met. So
So, how did you end up at Stony Brook? Like you mentioned, all these international students or people from Canada, Finland, the West Coast. What's the recruiting process like for soccer. I know a lot of the viewers know a lot about the football recruiting process. It seems like other sports don't have that same type of following as football does or basketball does. So can you give us like an insight to what that's like?
Yeah, so I think now it's different in that like people start recruiting super early, like and committing like probably their sophomore year of high school. And like I didn't start like researching or anything till my junior year. And basically you like the players have to, unless you're so like extremely good, you have to reach out to coaches. So I was emailing them, and like coaches will come and watch you play at like recruiting tournaments, and stuff like that. And I think one other player on my team was looking at Stony Brook as well. And so I was kind of like, if she goes, like I'll have a friend there and it'll just work out. So I think that was one of the main things that was kind of bringing me in the direction of Stony Brook, and that they had really good academics. So that was kind of what led me to Stony Brook. Other than that, like I feel like it was such a long time ago. I don't really remember like if there was something specific that I was like, oh, I want to go there. Like I think all these little aspects kind of built up, and I was like, this seems like the place for me.
So, like me, you are a twin as well, and your twin sister ended up going to Seton Hall, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what was that like? Did you guys get to play each other at all before you left Stony Brook? And is there like that family rivalry that went on during that time period?
Yeah, so we played each other once. It was like a preseason game our freshman year. I don't think we actually played on the same side. Like we didn't get to, fist fight on the field or anything. But it was, I mean, it was good to see her because we both were in preseason and we hadn't seen each other for a long time. And honestly, we didn't see each other a lot that year. But I don't think I would have like wanted to go to the same school as her or anything. Um, it weirdly made us closer, like not being together 24/7. It's like we see each other every now and then, and it's I don't know. I like it better because we can get into some fights if we're around each other too long. So yeah, I think it was definitely a good thing that we went to different schools.
I totally feel that. My twin sister and I didn't even go to the same high school, so
Yeah,
let alone same college.
yeah.
So you get to or you get to Stockton. What was the first practice like compared to what you had already known from comparing it to Stony Brook?
So this is crazy, but I I had a Finsta at the time, like a fake Instagram, and it was after the first day, and I was like, I'm about to quit. Like I can't do this. It was so much running. Like I, I've never seen anything like it. And I just wasn't expecting it. Like I never ran that much at Stony Brook. It was insane. I don't know. But like at the end of that day, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like this is bonkers. Like I literally don't think I want to do this. Um and yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of the reasons I wanted to do this series was to kind of break the myth that D1, D2, D3, and NAIA were this completely different thing where D3 was just this, as someone posted on I did a video on comparing the different divisions. D2 and D3 are just high school sports, basically the same thing. And that's to me, that's a false statement. And you could probably share more information on that, being able to compare the two.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not a high school sport. It's still super competitive. And you put a lot of time into it. There's a lot of travel time. And I mean, you don't have as many resources either. Like Division 1, there was more money, there was more clothing. Like at Stockton, we had to pay for our gear, we had to pay for a lot of our meals. Like it wasn't it's completely different, but it's not necessarily easier. And I think it's just a different type of soccer. Like Division 1, people are more technical. Division 3, it's a lot more physical. Girls just kind of run at you and just hope to get the ball at some points. And I'm like, okay, someone's gonna get hurt here. But yeah, it's different types of soccer, I would say, but definitely not like high school sports. You put a lot of time and effort, and that with academics, depending on the school you're going to, it can be a lot.
What was your usual day to day once you got to Stockton, your sophomore, junior, and senior year?
Um, so I guess obviously our senior year was super weird and different, and I was only taking 2 classes this past spring. I was part-time, so it was a lot easier. But I mean, every day we had practice at like 3:30, which was actually pretty nice, but we would still get up, and the lift was optional, but I was always a big enthusiast of lifting, so I'd be at that lift at 6:37 in the morning, and then I'd go to class, depending on what day and everything. I'd go to class, get food at campus. Like I never really had time to go home. Um, and another thing is we didn't have showers. I mean, it's probably just my school, but like we didn't have a locker room or showers or anything. So I'd be like all smelly walking around campus trying to get all my homework done and stuff, and then go to practice and finally get home after that. But yeah, it was still a lot on most days. I mean, depending on how you fit your schedule into each weekday, but yeah, I don't know.
How was playing through COVID and this past season? Were you guys getting tested every day?
Um, no, not every day. So I'm actually trying to think. I d- I didn't have to get tested that much. I think before bus rides, excuse me. Before bus rides, we got tested, and maybe every 2 weeks, I want to say. And then there were just like random, like they picked random amounts of people on each team and tested them. But it really wasn't bad. Everything was super different though. It sucked in the long run, but I'm just glad that we got a season at least. I know some people weren't that fortunate. I mean, even my friend Nicole Sasso at Marist, they didn't get a season this. I think they have had like 2 games, and it just sucks. Like you go into the season thinking, this is your senior year, like make the most of it. I think they were gonna have like 6 games or so in the beginning, and then it just all got canceled. So, I mean, I feel bad for her because it's just so awful. But yeah, I'm just really glad we had a season, and it didn't turn out the way that I wanted. I mean, it never does, but I'm just glad to be playing, and all the teammates. I mean, I love those guys. They're my best friends. So yeah.
So compare the playoffs at, sorry for all the comparisons of D1, D3, but so while you were at Stony Brook, you guys made the American East semifinals. What was the conference tournament like that compared to what the conference tournament was the past few years at Stockton?
Um, I'm trying to think. Well, I know my freshman year at Stony Brook, we were actually American East champs. So that was really cool to experience. I mean, it was a little different because I obviously wasn't playing. So, yes, I was excited for my teammates and everyone, but it didn't really feel like I contributed to that win as much. But at Stockton, it was kind of different where like I played like every minute of every game, and I put my heart and soul into, every time I stepped on the field. So, but I think my past 2 or 3 years we've lost in the playoffs, either the semis or the quarterfinals. And it's I don't know how to even like describe the difference. Obviously, like at Stony Brook, it was just more intense and competitive. Like you never really knew which way the game was going to go. I feel like Division 3, most of the time, I mean, you can always have your hopes, and I mean, things do go for like the underdog all the time, but you kind of knew like who was going to be at the top. I mean, TC&J was always, they were always the champs. And they actually weren't in the conference this season, so that was kind of a relief, but Montclair, they always, I hate that team, but yeah, I wouldn't say there's really many differences between conference play, if that makes sense. Like, I would just say that Division 1 is not for everyone. And I know, like, my senior year of high school, I was super immature in that I thought, like, this is what I want, like, and nothing's going to change my mind. Like, my parents made me go to Division 3 schools, like Moravian, visited there. But, like, I just knew in the back of my head, I was like, I want to go to Stony Brook. Like, I don't care about the cost. I don't care about this, that. And that's where I went. And I don't regret it because of the people I made. But if I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't have gone in that direction. So it's really not for everyone. And I think if you talk to like seniors who are Division 1 players, they were probably sick of it. They were sick of the meetings, the commitment, and like stuff like that. Because it is a lot. And it's like, at what point in your life do you move on from being an athlete into like the real world and what you want to do for the rest of your life?
So you also, before we started recording, you mentioned, and you mentioned it earlier too, how you are a nursing mate, or you graduated with a nursing major. What was doing nursing, like clinicals and all that stuff, like virtual? Because all schools, for the most part, been virtual this past year.
So I actually haven't, like, I'm going into nursing school now, but
Okay.
yeah. So when I went to Stony Brook, it was, you started nursing, I think your junior year. So I was just a health science until I was going to apply for the nursing school there. Um, but yeah, so I finished off at Stockton because they didn't accept transfers into the nursing program because it was so competitive. I think it's like 30 kids in the program. Um, so I didn't really experience that, but I know if I was in the program, it would have been a lot. Like, even now I'm in the second degree accelerated program, and I'm like, I'm going to be drowning in schoolwork for the next year and a half. So
Yeah, I one of the things I'm super excited to not have to worry about is running everything while trying to do schoolwork as well. And I couldn't imagine dealing with school while dealing with athletics and the type of pressure that goes with it. Because I was going to try to play college athletics, and then the whole school thing. Personally, we're not going to get into my story today, but I got hit by a side of a truck with calculus and chemistry first semester and didn't know how to study. So I could not. I was struggling with that just as a high school student adjusting to college life. I couldn't imagine trying to do all that with college athletics and then doing that again, almost transferring after a year.
yeah, I mean, my freshman year, like, it was shitty. It was really shitty. Um, and like I can barely remember it now just because I've been at Stockton for 3 years, but I just remember not being happy and like tears all the time. And no one needs that. I mean, your mental
No.
health is important, and if you're not happy mentally, then it's not worth it, in my opinion.
Now, I know you're probably going to agree with this statement as well. And I always kind of laughed people off when I heard it going through football recruiting of choose the school you want to go to and not the school that gives you the best offer, because you never know what's going to happen with sports. Would you agree with that type of advice if you had to give advice? What's some other advice you'd give to upcoming college athlete or high school athletes who are looking to go play at the next level?
Yeah, definitely. Um, I know me personally and a lot of people make their decision off of sports solely. Like if they like the team there and the atmosphere, like they're going to pick that school, but it's only 4 years of your life. Like you have to think about the future and what you want to do with your life. I mean, the chances of going pro, unless you're super good, so slim. So really, it takes a lot of maturity. And at the time, I did not have that. And I wish someone kind of just came up to me and was like, listen, like, you're not, this is dumb. Like, don't make this decision. But I mean, my parents were supporting. I mean, what are they going to say? No, like, they knew I wanted to go there. So they're like, yeah, like, I mean, you have to figure it out on your own. And a lot of people will, and they're going to make the same mistake I did, but it's all whatever path you take, you know. And it kind of has molded me into the person I am today. um so yeah.
I mean, I'm a firm believer of things happen for a reason. You, based off of what you just said, I'd probably guess you would agree with that statement as well. And
For sure.
I, one of the things I want to like kind of crush with everything is that image of D1, D2, D3, go D1, or it's D1 or bust, because you could, yeah, you could make it D1 and you could have a great time, but it's a full time job plus more, plus school on top of it. And I think
Mhm.
that's something not a lot of people talk about as much as they should. I know the more, especially with NIL national, the bill that's being passed soon, it'll allow athletes to be able to monetize their names. That might allow more athletes to create more social media content to help spread that word of, yes, this is a full time job.
Yeah.
Uh, be ready when you get here, type of deal.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's so important, and no one says it enough, honestly. And I think kids come into their freshman year and they're just like taken back because it was not what they were expecting at all. And I think the transfer rate for like student athletes is just so high, and it doesn't need to be. So yeah.
I know from the football side of everything, the transfer portal is probably one of the most controversial things in the, at least at the Division I football level. I'm for the transfer portal, and I think your story also helps share that message of just because someone enters the transfer portal isn't because of playing time. We're all college students at the end of the day. We got to remember that these college athletes entering the transfer portal are usually 18 to 22 years old. We like let them find the right school for them.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. I mean, soccer was a big part of it, but there were also so many aspects in my life that I just couldn't do all of them at once.
So,
Yeah.
Kiersten, as we close this down, is there anything you want to push? Any social medias that people can find you at? What's the next chapter for you?
I mean, if you want to give my social media, it's Kiersten Reszkowski. That's just my Instagram. That's really all I have. If anyone ever has any questions and they're like a senior high schooler and they're trying to decide what they want to do, I'm always open to talk about and give my advice. Other than that, thank you for having me. I mean, Oh no.
Thank you so much for coming on. Guys, remember to leave a like, share, and comment on the video. Thank you so much, Kiersten, again for coming on. And I wish you the best in your future, what the future brings.
Yes, thank you. And you too, John.